All right. Let me just go to 2015. I can assume. I'm not sure if you can see the screen. Let me just put that in full screen.
Yeah, we can see your slides already in full screen.
Okay. Thank you very much. Once again, good morning, everyone. Selamat pagi. So before we begin, or before I start, so as mentioned by Dr. Rizwan, this is going to be the first of four sessions that we're going to have. So today is our first session. I'm not sure if how many are we, like 47, yeah, that's good, or 40 plus. Um, Good morning to the faculty or students or guests if you have from the University of Brawijaya. Thank you very much for having me, for inviting me, and your speaker today. And I'd like to start with the section. If if everyone can scan through the QR code for the attendance, if it's for my attendance, okay. You can take a picture and then you can do it later. That's fine. Okay. All right. So okay, I'll give you like 2 seconds to take photo or take picture. And yeah, that's correct. The first one. I actually I don't really consider myself as really the master of everything. I think everybody has the knowledge and skills. However, I think there's so much to learn, so much to know about everything, especially in technology nowadays that we have this emerging technology, AI, agentic AI, and so on, quantum computing and everything. So we just keep on learning and evolving. So let me just go ahead in the next slide. We can go back on the QR code later. So I am an animator, graphic designer, so just a few projects that I made. Yeah, when I was in college, I usually would, create graphics and designs and everything. But now everything changes if you're an artist, if you're a designer, because we have AI now. So we cannot go away from AI. We need to, learn. We need to adopt and to be flexible on the technology that we have. So before we can just draw and it takes hours and time to create graphics and designs and animation, but um, AI is there to support or to aid us, and of course to produce output or design faster. So I have some few achievements. I had some few researches. I was invited also. So my name is Benjamin El Cornelio Jr. So I am from the Philippines. I have other responsibilities aside from this one. So those are the things that I do as a faculty. Um, all right, so let me proceed. Um, Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever opened a website or an app or immediately felt confused? You didn't know where to click. The text was hard to read. The colors didn't feel right. I know you have experienced that, maybe um, most of you. And within a few seconds, that experience is exactly what we call like poor experience or bad experience, if you said. Um, and now imagine an opposite. You open an app and everything just feels right. The buttons are exactly where we expect them to be. The colors guide your intention. The text is clear. It is readable, and without even thinking, you know what to do. So that is the power of UI and UX. And today, as I show you different examples, website or flashing on your screen, web apps, interfaces, settings, colors, photography, and layouts. I want you to look beyond just the design And I want you to ask, why does design feel easy to use, and why does this one feel confusing? What makes users stay? You ask question why people use this app, and why they stay. And a lot of people visit this app or this website, or maybe they leave once they, take a glimpse of scan your. And yeah, because of UI and UX, it is not just about making things look good. It's also about creating experiences that are simple, intuitive, and meaningful. So today we will explore that. So maybe some of you already know about this. These are simple because as I've observed also in my students, they're really like very techy, very innovative, and very eager. Some of them really eager to explore AI, and it's very easy for them to create apps and to create programs and everything. It's very easy, just a simple prompt. However, sometimes we tend to forget the UI and UX side of it. So I think on this session or for the next session, I hope you will understand the importance of this UI and UX. Right. So I'd like to ask everybody to, or maybe some of you, because I have a limited slot for this one. Initial time set, if you can. You can scan using your phone. If you have a phone and if you have internet. I'm not sure if you're at school or maybe at your home. This is just a knowledge check. I just switch my screen. Okay, so if you can scan through, or if you have a hard time, you can scan the QR code on the screen. I have some, I have some few questions to ask. Right. So everybody, okay, they're clicking like the heart already. And last emoji, I have like 12. That is literally others. Okay. The QR code is flashing on the screen also. Thank you. Okay, so hold on. Okay, there you go. We have like country. So okay, I think I can other choice here Spanish. I'm not sure if you're at school or at home. Here in the Philippines, in currently right now because of the heat, we are on flexible delivery mode. So some of my students actually they're also at home. All right, so let me just ask question and to see then. 22 still other are scanning. Okay, so let me open this. Okay, 22. All right. So if you are still on your phone or on your computer and you're able to go through this app, uh, this is the question: what is the first word that comes to your mind when you see or hear user experience? So you can simply type your answer on the screen. and then you can click submit. What do you think it comes to your mind when you hear like user experience? Usability. Okay, I have usability here. What else? You can enter how bagus, okay, reaction, easy to use. All right, answers are coming in. Thank you very much. Comfort. Okay, then I'm not sure what's the meaning of that. I'm sorry, guys. Empathy. That's right. Empathy. First impression. Wow. Okay. Accessibility. Michael. First impression. Hebat. Okay. Persistent. So most answers inequality, flexibility. All right. Thank you very much for these answers. Thank you. And yeah, we will understand more about UI and UX as we go along. And now, which of these have you used before? So these are the choices. Canva, okay, I have one answer. Figma, Figma, okay, I have five. Code only, coding only. Maybe some of you have other platforms that you are using. Okay, Figma. Figma is very famous. Yeah. All right, so we have coding only. Okay, one coding and then the rest have like Canva as well. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Next question. What is your favorite app or website that you're using on your phone or tablet or your computer? Okay, YouTube, for entertainment, for entertainment, TikTok, oh, all right. As well for reels, Facebook, X, okay, what's that? That's Twitter, right? Okay, Google, GoPay, Instagram. I have okay, Instagram, Facebook, VS Code. Okay, you love VS Code. Maybe this person really likes or like coding. Instagram, Canva, Traveloka, okay, Discord. All right, just a place where you can, you know, be with your friends or if you're on gaming and everything. All right, thank you. So I appreciate your participation, everyone. Thank you very much. Let me just let me go back to my site. Oh, okay, so let's get this one. Then okay, so, next, I'm not sure if we can hear you now. Okay, so thank you for that simple and uh, short icebreaker. So there's history in psychology and design for the very famous Gestalt type, Gestalt, which is a psychological perspective that emerged in the early 20th century, emphasized the idea that human perception and understanding the world are not simply the same of individual sensory experiences, but rather than the whole. It believed that individuals perceive and interpret stimuli by organizing them into patterns and structures rather than perceiving them as isolated elements. So they studied how individuals perceive visual illusions, problem solving, and organizing of sensory information. The principle of gestalt psychology, such as figure grounds, relationships, similarity, proximity, and closure, continue to influence in the field of design. And human factor engineering. So in psychology, it has played a crucial role in our understanding of the interaction between humans and machines. It was psychology to establish human factors engineering, a discipline that focused on designing tools, machines, and systems that take into account human capabilities, limitations, and characteristics. So during World War II, the discipline gained significant momentum as the U.S. military recognized the importance of optimizing equipment and cockpit interfaces for aircraft. So psychologists call it observe that humans are prone to error, particularly when under stress or problem, regardless of their training. They also recognize that machines could be designed to align with human capabilities and limitations. Therefore, reducing this error, this insight led to a development of principles that became fundamental to the discipline. So that is on the human factors engineering. And then I know maybe in your curriculum, here in the Philippines, we have another subject or course, which is human computer interaction. Human computer interaction advancement in technology led to the recognition of the importance of designing systems that catered to human signatures and physical abilities. Engineers started focusing on computer users and began developing new input methods and exploring different applications for machines. So, a pivotal moment in the integration of psychology and computer science came from Xerox PARC with the publication of Psychology of Computer Interaction. That was way back in 1982. So it had an impact on the development of personal computing as they applied cognitive psychology to enhance human interaction with computers. Now, I know most of you are like using different kinds of equipment or materials. So imagine this. Many people confuse I mean UI, user interface and user experience because the disciplines will overlap. UI cannot exist without UX or user experiences. Bring the user experience to outside to the website or application. So this is just an example of user interface, like a bottle of a tomato or ketchup. That's how you see user interface. And for user experience, that would be how the user would use the actual object or the actual services or the actual application. So is it convenient? Is it useful? Is it easy to use? Is it usable? So yet many organizations separate UX and UI too, creating confusion over shared responsibility. Historically, UI designers have focused on visual detail and consistency, while UX designers have um, focused on user flow and information architecture. But this role should be based around the individual designers' competencies rather than prescribed titles. And of course, because of user experience, if they use your product or services, people will tend to share. And I think that's the impact and the advantage if you are putting a business. If people like what they experience, they will definitely share it to others. And I think that's the time where the revenue coming in, the money will come in, and you will have more clients or customers. So that I think that is one of the effects of with great experience or user experience. Now, UI, which is the user interface, is a space where the human interacts with technology or any device or any equipment or digital product, often through a screen. So as an IT, as a developer like us, we develop apps, programs, maybe hardware as well. So UI designers create quick, straightforward ways for humans and machines to communicate using interactive features. Um, for website and applications, we put elements like buttons, icons, menus, and navigations, and voice controls, and a lot of elements are often, and gesture-based commands as well. UI designers apply interaction design principles and user psychology to create user-friendly, reliable, logical, and engaging interfaces. So user interface design consider the overall look and the digital product experiences you're creating and applies usability, interaction, design principles to all product function interactive features. Yeah, that is user interface design. Next, of course, there are three types of user interfaces. I know most of you are really familiar about the graphical user interfaces. Also, we have gesture-based interfaces. These are the the options for the things that your client or your user are doing, and then they can also voice control interfaces. Like you can put on NLP algorithm that's on the programming side. All right, let me proceed. Key elements of user interface design. So we have input controllers. There's more to UI design than meets the eye. Every user interface has the same general coding component. So input controls, of course, very basic. Product by entering information. So input controls can be simply like button, tick, or checkbox. Some are more complicated, including Dropbox, menus, toggles, and then informational components allow the product to provide information to the user, like icon notifications, progress bars, and tooltips are all familiar examples of information components. Next is navigational components help the user find their way through the product. Wayfinding, that's the term. Wayfinding elements like sliders, search fields, tags, breadcrumbs, all facilitate user engagement for seamless experience. And then containers keep the user interface organized. So that's part of some of the elements in user interface or user design. Let me proceed. And containers, example like the headers, the tabs, accordion menus. So those are just examples. And for key UI design consideration, of course, you need to consider the ideal or the page layout, organization of a web page or mobile app screen to seem intuitive to users, but to organize it the way UI designers have to make dozens of well-considered decisions. And of course, in UI, to add beauty and to add color, they have a color scheme or color element. And at the same time, font selection. UI designers carefully choose the colors and fonts on digital product interface for consistency, accessibility, and brand alignment. Interactive elements like buttons, drop downs. So these are key for key UI design considerations. And then wireframing or wireframe or prototype fidelity. UX designers usually often put together basic wireframing and prototypes. UI designers can help transform them into high fidelity functional interactive product mockups. Then four pro tips for successful UI design. Always put your user first. So success modern UI design is multifaceted field encompasses different perspectives, expertise and discipline to get started UI design. You need to put your user first. User interfaces exist for users, not for everyone else. So at every step of the design process, ask yourself, how does this impact the user? If the answer is anything other than it makes their life better or easier, you may want to, rethink your choice. The best UI doesn't just cater to users, it gives users a sense or like a sense of control. Simple user interfaces that are clean, intuitive, and free from frills are easier to use. And then we have do your homework, of course, doing some research. You will still want to do a competitor analysis to inform your design. Yes, do your research, understand the target audience, the expectations, and if your product is new to a well-established market, you will need to know what your target audience has to come to expect from similar products. So apply proven design principles. The key product design also apply to UI design. The best UI designers follow evolving standards for accessible and inclusive design, open design practices, and localization in global product design. And use of the right tools. Of course, we need to identify the tools that we're going to use and make sure that we are familiar with it. UI design is part of art, part of computer science, and the creative tools we should use help with both. So when your toolkit is intuitive and engaging, you can create the same experience for your users. So as you mentioned earlier on the activity that we had, so you are familiar with Figma. Collaborate with unlimited numbers of teams. I think that's very important as well. So we learn more if we talk to each other, we share our ideas and experiences. Now, user experience. So one of the key figures in the early development of UX design is cognitive scientist, the psychologist. So he is the one who actually coined the user experience. That is Donald Norman. Um, all aspects of the end user interaction with the system, including interface graphics, industrial design, physical interaction, and more, while he is working in Apple. So, um, the- while technology and other interaction uh, with it will keep evolving, psychology offers a lens to decipher the fundamental blueprint of how we perceive and process the world. And also, he emphasizes the importance of designing products that not only are functional, but also provide a positive and satisfying experience for the user. So, what is a UX design? So, a UX designer prioritizes the user at every step of the design process, helping product teams create solutions that their target audience return to again, return to your product. They buy your product, they use your product. Build your UX strategy in 4 steps. Of course, you need to set your goals. Your company probably already has a mission, like your vision, value statement, your strategic UX goals to marry your company's stated business goals with users' needs. And then validate your goals with research, interview business stakeholders at your company to understand their expectations and hear how they measure success. And then step 3, evaluate and ideate. Bubble up key headlines or themes from all your research to help leaders decide which product or features make the cut. Then brainstorm to identify the tools, technology, and then lastly, build your roadmap. Map out milestones that support your vision and meet your goals. Then pinpoint activities, tasks along the way to achieve those milestones. When you move into the execution phase, prepare about iteration, going back to revisions, a lot of revisions. Designer can apply UX strategy across various projects, including, of course, you can apply mobile application, websites, software interfaces, physical products. 5 steps to UX design: consumer and competitor research. So to deliver a positive user experience, UX designers need to understand their target audience. That is the most important thing. I've been telling or saying that throughout, and then Information architecture. Once UX designer understands users' needs and behavior, they can create information architecture. So what is this? For their product or site, designer use IA as the visual blueprint, outlining essential navigation content, hierarchy features, and interaction. And then you start wireframing and prototyping, and then testing and troubleshooting. And of course, lastly, that's gonna be like ongoing updates. Even after a digital product has entered the market, the UX designer job is never truly done. With new user feedback, back-end analytics, they can design updates and improvements. How to recognize successful UX design. So these are some of the questions. Is the site or product useful? Is it usable? Is it desirable? Have you made it findable? That is, will a user know where to find what they're looking for? Is it accessible? Is it credible and valuable? So what does UX success look like? According to Peter Morville, author of Information Architecture for the World Wide Web, successful UX answered yes. This seven user experience question. All right. User experience design focus on overall user experience. When designing a product, considering factors like ease of use, intuitiveness, and user expectations. When we try to design, I'm not sure if some of you has or when you read fourth year, or I'm sure that this sorry, second year, right? Second year student, and some faculty maybe if you have guests as well. So so we need also to consider the audience. Okay, okay, hold on. Okay, okay, there's like a technical problem. Hold on. All right, so 17 user experience design principles. User-centric, focus on understanding your user's needs, goals, and behavior. For example, Amazon personalized recommendations to simplify the shopping experience. Consistency, keep your design predictable across screens and devices, like the color, the design, the logo, and everything. Many iPhone users find map interfaces familiar because icons and buttons are the same or not. Hierarchy, which visual cues to highlight important information. For example, Netflix organizes unique categories so viewers can navigate content quickly. Usability, make products easy to learn and use. For instance, Google search keeps the interface simple so user can find information in just few clicks. And user control, give user the ability to control their experience and undo actions. Like your Gmail example, let's user undo sent emails and key settings. So accessibility, designed for user for all abilities. For instance, YouTube provides captions and alt text to make videos more accessible. And then context, consider how and when and where users interact with your product. For example, mobile banking often use larger buttons and streamlined layout for people on the go. What is the difference between UI and UX? I'm not sure if you can already understand the difference based on what I have explained. So people sometimes confuse the two. Yeah, they are interchangeable. In digital design, user interface refers to the interactivity, look, and feel of the product screen or web page, while user experience covers a user's covers a user experience with the product or like the website or any services. Engaging UI lays the foundation for the positive overall experience. And also, um, as a designer, you need to consider this value, being empathetic. So it is the ability to, to understand someone else's feeling and thought. So creating action programs or websites, sometimes you need to um, consider being equitable. It means that you consider people who has this disability, the different ages, different group of people, something like that. So what if, like, we ask ourselves, this application can be used by children, this application can be used by people who have disabilities, different group, ethnicity, demography, something like that. Because empathy and um, equitable, it should be enjoyable as well and useful for UI and UX experience. It's like in adding a cart. Like for example, if you add the device or add the product and then you suddenly, experience that the product is out of stock, so that is somehow a bad experience. And for creating a team, I don't know if you have all of this like knowledge or experience, but when you try to create an app, so there would be a product lead, user UX researcher, interaction designer, visual designers, engineers, and program managers. They have their own different roles, like creating the scope of the project, understanding or building the trust, and making the flow seamless. That is the job of the interaction designer, and more on the visual part, the color, the font, and everything. That's for the visual designer. So if you have a team that are actually has the skills in this particular area, that would be good. But if you have all these skills, then that would be great. Now, I know we have like a course until 11. I'm not sure. We are 1 hour and a half ahead here in the Philippines. But I want you to, I didn't scan this one. If you can scan, or if you just simply ask yourself, um, you think about an application or program, and then you ask yourself, what are the things I like about it? And then what are the things that I wish that they did on this application or program? Maybe they need to adjust the buttons, arrange the text, and what if? So you ask yourself, like, what if they add something new, intuitive, something different that makes makes the user experience more unforgettable, and so that it would be more enjoyable as well. So go over because this is part of the activity as well. But let me see your answer. We'll go over to the slide again. And it's okay. You can scan the, I believe others are still in um, the AHA slide. You can scan the QR code and you can quickly join if you want. And then I want you to think about your favorite Apple product or services. And then simply like um answer what other things you like about it. Is it on the UI? Is it on the user experience maybe? So you search one. What are the things that you like about that app um, or product or service? So you can type your answer or you can scan this one. So what are the things you like about it? If you have like a favorite application that you're using, some of you already mentioned earlier the VS Code, Canva, YouTube. So what do you think? The design is controlling themes. I have answered yes. Like you like the design. Okay, great. What else? Convenient. All right, thank you. Convenient, easy to use. The design is very amazing. All right, so aesthetic and the design. I think most of us really love applications that are easy to use and convenient and fast as well, right? Simplicity is beauty, right? So simplicity is also considered. I think those are the things. Let me proceed. All right, the experience usually and user experience. That's a good feedback. That's a good, for the business. Okay, the design is neat. All right, let me proceed to the next question. So, what do you wish that application of product that you're using? What would be your like your wish making any change on that application? Do you have any like wish or like maybe a suggestion maybe that can improve? I know that as human we behave differently as time goes by. It should be helpful. Okay, we wish that it should be helpful. Um, because we are humans, we keep on evolving, and we keep on learning and adapting to things. Maybe some of the group prefer like this kind of colors, this kind of design. Maybe in other countries they like this kind of app because of their culture, because of their because of their belief, something like that. Simple and it should be simple and painless. All right. Okay. Thank you for your answers. And what if this product would or will? So what are your what if? Like what if you add something? What do you think will you add or will you change? Or maybe will you remove or will you suggest in that application to improve the what? Okay, any answer? What will be your suggestion? What will be the changes that you wanted to see in the future? Maybe some improvement, or maybe some like new innovation and integration. So what if? And in that way, this question will spark your innovation thinking skills as well to think about something new. So special and useful to many people. So it's become so special. So we'll increase the color. Okay. So you can increase or maybe improve the design or the color and the text. Okay. Right. The more this product will be useful to everyone, improvement and more user feel satisfied, centralized data in one page without opening many subpages. Yeah. Yeah, I think some of the websites are or applications don't consider user interface in your user experience. So it needs to improve. Has more interactive features so that if your suggestion interactive features, yes. I think most of us really love multimedia and different elements going on. Maybe we have different preferences. At least you have knowledge about the people around you. Okay, so thank you very much once again. Let me just switch back to my presentation. Okay. Right. So thank you very much. Um, this is going to be like I don't know. Maybe some of you already know the basics. Maybe we forget the basics. But I will be discussing this to you. The loss of user experience, and that way we will remember it by heart. So we create apps not just to help people, not just to provide solution to problems and gaps. And I think that's part of our role, especially faculty and students. We have like researches that we need to implement maybe, whether it's an application program, whether it's in hardware that address issues in fisheries and in the classrooms, with some um, system for enrollment maybe, for security and detection maybe. So on this side, we will also go back on understanding how to improve and creating design. So Jacob's law is also known Jacob's law of internet user experience. This he actually described the tendency for user to develop an expectation of design convention based on their cumulative experience from other websites. So as humans, of course, we are born here in this world. Many things are already existing in this world. Phones, calculators, the abacus, paintings, architecture, dance, and other equipment, furniture, and other devices already exist before we were born. So we we actually have previous experiences. So that is Jacob's law. This observation, which Nelson described as a law of human nature, encourages designers to follow. You need to follow common design conventions, enabling users to focus more on the site content, message or product. And then we have what we call the mental mode or mental models rather. Mental models is what we think we know about a system, especially about how it works, whether it is in digital systems such as like website or physical systems such as checkout line in retail store. We form a model of how the system works, and then we apply the model to new situations in which the system is similar. That's why when we do try to do some research, we read related literature, we read RRL, for us to have a better understanding the previous knowledge and experiences. And based on that experiences, how we can come up with new knowledge and innovation. Similar with UX and UI for Jacob's Law. Let me further explain that. So, like this one, humans designing them had a mental model, so of what these elements should look like, which they base on control panels. As you can see, these are all control panels. There's they were familiar with. We are all familiar with the physical world. From the physical world, the design of interactive elements from like form toggle radio input and even button originated. They actually originated on this kind of panel. Input and even button. Design of their tactile counterparts. This is the counterpart from actual to digital. So therefore built upon the conceptual model of what this element should do and how they should work. So when our designs do not align with the user existence, mental models such as when we are familiar with product is suddenly changed. If you introduce you introduce a new product, a new interface to user, most likely they will have like a bad experience because they are not familiar about the design, about the functionality. So there will be a mismatch of mental models can affect not only how users perceive the products and services would help build, but also the speed at which they understand them. So let's have an example of like the Snapchat way back in 2018. So instead of gradually introducing changes through slow iteration and extensive beta testing, the company actually launched a major overhaul, like a major redesign. So that dramatically changed the familiarity of the user and of the client. Combining watching stories and communicating trends is in the same case. So unhappy users immediately they switched from Snapchat to Twitter and expressed their disapproval. So that is the um, problem or the the talents that they made. Sometimes it's good to take a risk, but it's too risky sometimes. Look at what happened. They haven't tried or to be more innovative, but you think still there, right? But Samsung and Apple are the frontliners for mobile production. Now, when we try to like redesign our website or our app, we consider this. Yeah. Just take a look. Google and YouTube has a history of allowing users to opt into redesigned version of its product, like Google Calendar, YouTube, and Gmail. When the company launched a new version way back in 2017, after years of essential in the same design, it allowed desktop users to ease into the new material design UI without having to commit. So you can switch from old to new just to introduce, just to introduce your clients or to your customers the improvement or the new design. And in that way, you can gain feedback or feedback or user experience from your client, whether they like it or not. If they don't like it, they can switch it back. Or maybe if they really love it and accept new things. I think that's another way for us to transition or to transfer, move our clients to a new and refreshing interaction or experience. So a user could preview the new design. They can preview the new design and gain some familiarity, submit feedback, and even revert the old version so they can submit feedback if they like it. But now, of course, YouTube, Facebook, and Google improve their user design experience. And of course, in order for you to understand the people or the audience or your clients, you need to have a background or do some research. That's why you need to understand their behavior, their goals, motivation, frustration type, likes and dislikes. So personas are intended to foster empathy. And that way, as I mentioned earlier, empathy is very important. So when you try to develop a UI UX, empathy is very important. Create a shared mental model of the trait, needs, motivation, and behavior of a specific kind of user. The frame of reference that a person helps to define incredibly valuable for teams and help team members to move away from self-referential. Because also I observing my students that when they try create application and program, they just go on prototype screen. Then if they like the design, and then that's it. They will just submit their project or their application without considering this question, because sometimes we simply design based on our reference or preferences rather. So part of UI UX, you need to create a user persona profile. So these are the steps. User persona is a model of your target customer created from real world data and insights. It's like a mini biography that includes core details like your demographic, goals, frustrations, personality traits, painting a picture of someone who represents a larger group of your users. So think of it as answering the question, who is our ideal customer? Knowing the answer to this question helps your team make informed decisions, whether it's refining marketing strategy or guiding your product development roadmap. So hold on. I think the image is not loading this point. We try to refresh it. Yeah, maybe it's my internet. Well, that is actually an image of another template for creating persona, but you can download Figma personal template so that you can start, creating the profile of your client, what their preferences. If you are more on application of selling flowers, maybe selling coffee, maybe, or um, like creating booking applications or creating a Google Map applications alternatives. So what will be the expected user interface or user experience? Who are your clients? So you can use this Sigma persona template. You can scan or take a photo of this one, and then you can actually do that if you have time. Or you can go to random project generator. So you can simply, type the name and then the background. You can simply click on a lot of options. What are you trying to create? Maybe you're trying to, okay, the photo is not showing on your end. Let me see. But the one picture is actually, it's so here on my screen though. It is so, okay. Maybe it's with a Canva. I need to refresh it so that it will load again. But here on my end, I can see. Anyway, let me just proceed on this one. So you can take a photo and then do it later on for random project generator, right? So let me proceed to the next law, which is the fifth law. So usability is a key aspect of a good design. So it implies ease of use, which means that interface should easy for users to understand and navigate. Interactions should be painless and straightforward, requiring minimal effort. The time it takes for users to move to one or to move to and engage with interactive objects. So this is how this flow works. So the origin of this law can trace back to 1954 when American psychologist Paul Pitt predicted that the time required to rapidly move to a target area is a function of the ratio between the distance of the target and the width of the target. So today this law is regarded as one of the most successful and influential mathematical models of human motion, and it's widely used in ergonomic and human-computer interaction model, the act of pointing either physically or virtually. So index of difficulty, metric to quantify the difficult of the target selection, task in which the distance to the center of the target is like signal and the tolerance or the width of the target. According to research of Steve Huber, three people prefer to view and touch the center of the screen or your smartphone. And this way accuracy and highest they also tend to focus on the center of the screen as opposed to scanning of the upper left and the lower right as is common in the desktop devices. And now let's look at the common example of Pitt's law, the distance between the text and the text box. Form text labels by associating a text label element with an input designer, and developers can ensure that the taps and clicks on the label perform, which is very basic. We are doing it already. Of course, we observe Fifth law also in forms. Another common example, placement of form submission buttons. These buttons, like the submit button here, okay, I think I have to, uh, show the refresh this one. Hold on. Let's see. There you go. Because the images are not actually loading, I apologize for that one. Maybe if maybe for the internet can very well. I guess today we are okay. There you go. The image is showing now, I believe. So as I mentioned earlier, um, users tend to interact with the device, especially if they're using smartphones, devices or tablets. They tend to focus more on the center part. It's easy for them to navigate. And then also example of the text box and label. All right, so let me proceed to the Miller's Law. This is commonly misunderstood. Heuristic has frequently been cited as um, justification for design or design decisions, such as the number of navigation items must be limited to more than seven. So as human, we tend to remember uh, few elements or design only. So you don't have to overwhelm user with all elements. So Miller's law originates from a paper published in 1956 by cognitive psychologist George Miller. All right, let me proceed to the next one. So the simplest example of chunking can be found in how we format phone numbers, like this one on the phone numbers here. So it's very difficult for us to remember all of those numbers. So we use and we group them. We chunk them, right? Now let's take a look on how chunking is applied in broader context. Chunking can be used to help users understand underlying relationships by grouping content in distinctive modules, applying rules with separate content. And also, as you can see on the website of Night as well. So hierarchy, especially in the information dense experiences. Chunking, chunking can be leveraged to provide structure to the content, not only in the result, more visually pleasing, but it's also more scannable. Users who skimming the latest headlines to determine which is worthy of their attention can quickly stand the page and make decisions. Now, for Hicks' law, this is way back in 1952, psychologist William Edward Hinks, who were examining the relationship between numbers of stimuli present and individuals' reaction time. So, number of options and how long does the client or user will respond. If you overwhelm user, most likely they will not interact because something like they have a bad experience towards it. Maybe not all. So in other words, people take longer to make decisions when given more options or choices. Similar like you are scanning through like if you love shoes or dresses, so you are like looking for something that you love. But if it's very important for you, so you really need to look and scan through. But this is how Hicks law works. So sometimes we minimize the problem to our users or option. We combine or we group them into one button, and then we have sub buttons or sub pages as well. One of the primary functions we have as a designer is to synthesize information and present it in a way that does not overwhelm the people who use the products and services we use. We do this because we understand almost instinctively that redundancy and exclusiveness creates confusion. So this confusion is problematic. Comes to creating products and services and clear onto what it is. So as the numbers of features available in TVs increase over the decade, so that is the remote control. I think that's all. Next, we have the postal law. So the postal law, design good user experience, means designing good human experiences. People don't behave like machines. We are excuse we are sometimes inconsistent, frequently distracted, occasionally error prone, and usually driven by emotion. So we expect to feel in control at all times, and we're generally annoyed when asked to provide more information. So, like filling up forms, there's a lot of forms that you need to fill up. Sometimes users are impatient. But Postman's law dictates that make it easier for us to verify or to register maybe, to process payments maybe. That's Postman's law. So we are being innovative in any way. We are improving. So Like example, Apple users to authenticate on their mobile devices without need to provide username or password. But before we don't have this face recognition or like fingerprint, so they really need to enter the username and password just to verify and to process the request. But now since we are having this, it makes a great experience to us or to users. It's very useful as well. And aside from that, um, for progressive enhancement, our interfaces, so responsive and fluid design, make it easier for users to interact. It's easy and fast. Now, pick and rule. So what is this one? So evidence for pick and rule was first explored in 1993 when morphine is preferred to less, adding a better end. So an interesting thing happens when we recollect a past event instead of considering the entire duration of the experience. We tend to focus on the emotional peak and on the end, regardless of whether those moments were positive or negative. In other words, we remember each of our life experiences as a series of representative snapshots rather than a comprehensive timeline of events. So our feelings during the most emotional intense moments and at the end are average in our minds and heavily influence how we recall an overall experience to determine whether we'll be willing to do it again and recommend it to others. So how's your experience having doing this like shopping, adding a cart, making a book, um, playing the game, achieving a particular event, something like that. Pick and rule. So like this mail shift, understand that this is very important moment. First time users, like first time you open the app, so it's very exciting. Like someone refer you an application review and they have good feedback towards it. They're excited to open beyond presenting a simple confirmation model by infusing a touch of brand character through illustration. That is an example. Aside from that, pick and rule can be applied in this point. This is what we call negativity bias. We have a tendency as humans not only to register negative events more readily, but also dwell to these events. This bias towards the negative leads to pay more or to pay much more attention to the bad things that happen, making them seem more important than they really are. It is inevitable that in some point in the lifespan of the product or service, something will go wrong, something like that. Like you need to update the password every other month, something like that. So it's alarming, so you are required to do so. Rigid password rules can quickly lead to frustration which people are encountering. So another example is like when you play a game, like Duolingo. I don't know if you are familiar about this one, but I have an application in my phone, in my tablet, using this in different language. So understand the importance of this moment and goes beyond presenting a simple progress indicator by infusing a touch of brand character through illustration, subtle animation, humor platforms. So that's good. And then Uber. Negative events also provide emotional peaks, like negative events, and can contribute to user lasting experience or impression of the experience by focusing on people's perception of the time. Uber was able to reduce the post request cancellation rate and avoid what's called easily become a negative emotional peak using or while using this service. So our memories are rarely perfectly accurate of record of events. How users recall an experience will determine how likely they are used to product or service again and recommend it to others since we judge past experiences based not on how we felt throughout the whole duration of the event, but on the average of how we felt at the peak emotional moments and at the end. It is vital that these moments make a lasting good interesting by paying close attention to these key moments on each screen. Next, we have what we call the aesthetic usability effect. The origin of the aesthetic usability effect can be traced back 1995. So, as a designer, we understand that our work is about more than just something look. It's also about how it works. That's not to say good design can also be attractive design. In fact, an aesthetically pleasing design can influence usability. Not only does create a positive emotional response, but also enhance our cognitive abilities, increase the perception of usability, and extend credibility. In other words, an aesthetically pleasing design creates positive response in people's brains and leads to them to believe that the design actually works better. Like for example, Brown SK4 record player, so nicknamed Snow White Coffee. Due to its white metal casing and transparent casing, constructed of powered coated sheet metal with elm wood side panels with stood in drastic contrast to lavishly all wood products more typically available to consumers at the time that was way back in 1966. Of course, let us not forget the design. Minimalist balance by refined aesthetics by Apple that influence of Brown's design philosophy on Apple's product is quite apparent such as iPod, iPhone, and iMac. Youthful minimal aesthetic of Brown's product line and Apple's I think Apple and other brands of phones or companies are actually mimicking as well. The design of Apple, the color, the icons and everything. Apple's intention aesthetic extends beyond industrial design. Their brand is well known for creating interfaces that are, both elegant and easy to use. The attention to detail in everything that company creates has directly contributed to Apple becoming one of the most beloved brands in the world. Does not say that its products interfaces don't have any usability issues, but of course, people are much more likely to overlook this issue due to that pleasing aesthetic that's the core of the design, which is the aesthetic usability effect at work. And then, of course, there will be usability testing to make sure to do some research. What would be the preferences? What would be the majority preferences of people? And von Restov effect. So it was named after German psychiatrist and pediatrician, 1933. Millions of years of evolution have given humans an incredibly sophisticated system of vision and cognitive processing. We can identify objects in fractions of a second. We possess superior pattern processing capabilities in comparison to other living things. So these traits have proven valuable of survival species and they remain with us up to this day, affecting how we perceive and process the world around us. Our focus is not only dictated by the goals we seek to accomplish, but also directed by this instinctual ability. Now, for this one, bond frequent effect, selective attention that you can observe in this example. Objects within our field of view might be visible, but we don't always see them. We notice the contrast. We notice the different ones. The reason for this is because attention plays a fundamental role in how we perceive the world around us. In order to maintain the focus and information that is important or relevant in task, we often filter our information isn't our information that isn't relevant. In other words, our ability to focus on things around us is limited only in terms of capacity and duration. So this is a common example. This visual phenomenon can be found in design in interactive elements such as buttons, text maybe, if you have a highlighted text or link, and the like. The visual differentiations of these elements can help draw people's attention in form of the actions available. So that is an example. Another example, like a floating button, further and look at the interface that moves beyond the simple use of color. A design pattern introduced by Google Material Design performs the primary or most common action on screen by providing guidance around the design. So as a result, it has become a familiar pattern that people recognize and that therefore helps to guide their experience. And similarly, most of the application that we're using, there is like a pop-up icon or maybe a notification design. Our attention takes notification, for example, so which are meant to inform us or users when something requires them to take action. So eye tracking, there is like eye tracking is a research technique used in user experience design to measure and analyze where users look and how they interact with the interface. And we have the Tesla's law. This is Tesla's law can be traced way back in 1980s. That is Larry Tesler, computer scientist. Um, who, all right, so in this one, a set of principles, standards, and best practices for defining the structure and behavior of the interactive system that was key to the development of the desktop computer and desktop publishing. Who should bear the burden of complexity within an application or process, the user, or the designers, or the developers? This is the fundamental question when considering the design of user interfaces and more broadly, how humans interact with technology. A key objective for designer is to reduce complexity. So how complex is your design? Sometimes we cannot avoid complexity. So complexity for the people who use the product and services we help to build, yet there is an inherent complexity in every process. So that is inevitable. So we reach a point of which complexity cannot be reduced any further, but can only be transferred from one place to another. Like complexity bias is tendency to favor complex and intricate solution over straightforward ones, often because complexity is associated with intelligence, expertise, and depth understanding. One common way illustrate Kessler's law is through the humble email. So when you write an email, there are two required pieces. That's before, who message it is from and to whom it should be sent. The email cannot be sent either of the just missing. Therefore, it's necessary and complex complexity. To reduce this complexity, a modern email client. So we have a modern email. It will pre-populate the sender. So Gmail now leverage artificial intelligence and makes our lives easier. But this is actually one of the law of user experience. Another place testers law can commonly observed in the ambiguity or not clear checkout process. There's a lot of confirmation when we do some booking. Sometimes we like in booking a hotel or maybe in Agoda. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or buying things online. So there's a lot of like requirements to do, check out payments, your first name, your credit card information. So it is very complex and you can avoid that. Simplifying the checkout process even further are services such as Apple. So that's why, as we mentioned earlier, we have like a face recognition for payments, Apple Pay, credit card payments that will automatically pay out and something like that. You don't have to necessarily fill out those forms anymore. And we observe that in many applications or platforms. And don't see threshold. So what is this one? One of the features that is critical to good user experience is the performance. Emotion can quickly turn into frustration and leave negative lasting impact when users who are trying to achieve a task are met with slow processing, lack of feedback, or excessive load time. Often overlooked as more technical best practice, speed should be considered an essential design feature that is core to good user experiences. So in early days of data computing, 2 seconds was considered unacceptable. So in this law, it considers the response time, the loading time. Most of us are, maybe some generations are very patient, but some students or young ones are not really patient, especially if they see screens that are loading. They want it, done it as fast as snap of the snap of the finger. Now there are other ways that we can, entertain maybe, or maybe just to provide some information to user that what's going on. Um, like optimizing load times is known as the blur up technique. That's one way. So we blur up image that is loading, something like that. It tends to inform user that it's loading, like that. So if, especially if you are using an application or you are trying to optimize the loading process of your application. And another example is animation being used to reduce the uncertainty and frustration associated with wait times can be found in Google's famous email time, especially if you have like latency or internet bandwidth, internet problem. So what will be the option? You don't just provide like an error to our client or customers if they have low slow internet connection. There are many considerations also, technicalities as well. Like Google's famous email, loading. The loading screen uses an animated version of logo combination with simple progress bar and uploads, and the effect of this simple yet distinctively animation creates the perception of a shorter wait time and improves the overall user experience by reassuring people that the app is actually working, that the app is actually loading. And another example would be this one. So it takes time to the complexity and to process this one. Finally, a too fast response time can result in mistrust if it doesn't align with the user expectation about the task being performed. So purposefully adding a delay to a process can actually increase a perceived value and instill a sense of trust. If they know that you provide such complete information, how you handle their information, how you handle their data, their credit card information, it creates also trust. As long as you present it clearly, increase its perceived value and instill sense of trust, even when the process actually takes much less time. So friction can be carefully utilized when a more considered response required from users. So this is an example of confirmation model, which can be enough friction to activate the effortful and evaluative mental process known as system two thinking. So that is through system two thinking. And yeah, those are some of the loss of user experiences, and maybe you will be encountering other laws and how you can improve the UI and UX experience, um, the architecture, the similarities, the arrangement, the alignment, and those are some principles and additional knowledge. And I know most of you have already have experience with this one. So I hope that you learn something and you go back to this topic before you jump in creating your programs and apps, because sometimes the functionality and performances is there. Yeah, it's there. When you check, okay, it's performing, it provides results, it provides solutions, it's working well. However, user experience and user interfaces um, have been compromised, or we usually neglect or don't consider this. And we might surprise that some of us, or maybe some people, will not use or visit your website anymore. So with this kind of session that we are doing, at least somehow you will, you will apply this in the future, especially when you try to develop or take your thesis or your programs or applications. If you venture on mobile application or web design, and maybe in industrial design, when you create hardware design as well. So you need to consider the behavior or the psychology and characteristics or other traits of your user. And I think that's it for me. But before we end, I'd like to, let's have some knowledge check. I want you to scan this one. You can scan this knowledge check. If you have some question, you can ask me. Do you have any further questions or clarifications maybe before we do some knowledge check? Okay, none so far. So let's find out if some of you are actually have this idea. These are just 5 questions. It's so simple and basic. Okay. Okay. Mm, Is my screen showing up? All right. So you can scan again the QR code to join. Maybe some of you are already joined on the. Okay. You can join again if you want. These are just 5 questions. Join. Enough. One. Giovanni. Like 30 seconds on our next section of So this question, what is UI primary? So what is UI primarily focused on? So you have 15 seconds to answer. Don't forget to submit. I want you to submit, guys. Three, two, one. All right. So I think everyone got the answer except for one. User emotion. I'm not sure why. Maybe the person just clicked on a different thing, but at least everybody knows about UI primary focus on. Great job, guys. Thank you. Next question. Question number two. So what is UX concerned with? So that is so simple, right? I think everybody can have it have the right answer. I don't know. We can do it, guys. Two, one. All right. Great job. So we got 40 correct answer. Yay. And just give you like confetti there. Thank you. Now let's proceed to the third question. Most users prefer familiar design. So familiar design. Hmm. I'm not sure if you can still remember that we have like this past experiences or past encounters with some of the equipment and tools, the standard 1, 0. All right. Yes, that's Jacob's law. So the photos that I've shown you earlier about the meter that has similarities or familiar designs with the real world to the digital world. All right, thank you. All right, 13 and 3, 5. Good. I. All right, we're on the last question. Let's know it's about what? Is it about color usage, speed of animation, decision making with many choices, font readability, tip law? I don't know if I can survive. Three, two, one, zero. So time's up. So that's correct. Decision making with many choices. So an example is that the remote, many choices, overwhelm the user. And last option, it is against means ugly designs work better, beautiful designs are perceived as easier to use. Design doesn't matter, only UX matters. I think that's pretty obvious to to select the answer for aesthetic and aesthetic usability effect. So this is going to be our last question. Two, one, hands up. Yep, beautiful design. That's correct. So thank you very much. I think we have just got the highest score, 468 points. And yeah, congratulations. Great job. And Elizabeth, Cynthia, and Charlene as the runner-up. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, everyone. Let me thank you for your participation. I really like it. Thank you, guys. Let me share the my slide again. I think that's it for me. This is going to be your worksheet. This is on the Google form. Um, so you can do it at home. You can submit it, and we can go back when on the session two. You can work on this one on Word document. Just paste your answer there and then just upload the file. So you can please take a photo or picture of this one. Thank you. And then you can share it on your messenger or maybe on your group chat later on. Right? So thank you. Take a photo, screenshot, share it in the group chat or Q3. And then lastly, I would like to ask everyone to scan this also for evaluation. So you can do this later on or during this time for the evaluation. And that's it for me for my presentation for the session one. Thank you for being with me, for staying, for listening. And I hope that somehow in this short period of time, you learned something from this session. Next session will be next week, and I hope to see you again soon in session two. And that's it for me, Dr. Swan. If uh, if there are any questions, I think I can entertain maybe two questions.
Yeah, any questions from students?